show some people, but it's all straight, you know, familiar. I say simple, familiar things. And Francis, I think lying down is very good for you. I've got a beautiful view of you, a very beautiful view of your lounge as well. So settling down onto your backs and just arriving and settling, and this, yeah, sense of how you are right now. Oh, hang on. And I've been doing a bit of yoga with one of my older daughter's friends, and at the beginning I was just thinking, you know, what are the really important messages? And the main message I realized was this, you know, yoga is about feeling ourselves and feeling how we are in all of the different positions and movements. So the first thing I would say is, as you lie down onto the ground, is just to try and feel how your body is today. So that might be noticing any little aches or pains. And then from the sense of noticing your body, it would be noticing, and this, Francis, is particularly relevant for you, just noticing what your energy levels are like. So you sort of take stock of how you're feeling. So sometimes we can be feeling really tired and we lie down for some yoga and we find some energy. But sometimes we can be feeling a bit hyper. We might think we have loads of energy and we lie down and actually we discover that we're really quite tired. So this stopping gets us maybe more in touch with how we're actually feeling. And then the third thing is to connect with the flow of the breath within yourself. So just for a couple of cycles of breath, see if you can feel the movement of your breath in your body. And it could be that you bring your hands onto the front of your body, if that's helpful for you. Resting your hands somewhere where you can feel the movement of the in-breath and the out-breath. And feeling ourselves in these ways helps to bring our attention inward. So if it has been our attention has been sort of dispersed outward. And then what I would like you to do in terms of moving is maybe just start by letting your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And feel the head is heavy, give the weight of the head to the floor. See how it feels in the neck as you let your head roll to the right and to the left. And then come to settle the weight of your head on the floor. Feel your breath come in, feel your breath leave you. And then if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. Lovely. And then start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left and see how this feels. And notice how it feels into the hip joints, around the back of the pelvis, into the lower back. And so this is all sort of areas, places where we can feel just, you know, a bit creaky, a bit stiff, a bit tight. And that might vary a little bit on a day-to-day basis. Now, from here, what I'd like you to do is settle in the center. Keep your right knee bent and lengthen your left leg out on the floor. And let the left leg be long and heavy. So let the left leg lengthen out, that's it. And then start to tilt your right knee on its own to the right and to the left. And feel how the weight is rocking side to side across the sole of your right foot. And as we're doing this one knee, you probably feel the movement more into your hip joint when we move just the one leg. And what I'd like you to do from this tilting movement is then settle your foot in the center. So you're not going to let your knee wander to the right or to the left. So settle your foot in the center. Francis, you look like your foot could be a little bit closer into your pelvis to me. Yeah, that's it. Good. And then from there, you're going to start to press into that foot and send your knee forwards as you let the right side of your pelvis come away from the floor. So this familiar movement where we're pressing into the right foot, we're letting the pelvis lift on the right side, we're letting the pelvis tilt towards the left. So we're starting, and this is what one of our focuses for today, is this feeling of lengthening and opening through the right side of the body. So something I've been enjoying in my practice recently is this feeling of, length through the sides of the body. So repeat this a few times, pressing down into the right foot, letting the pelvis lift on the right. Good. Letting your pelvis tilt towards the left. And then we're going to carry on with the same movement on that side, but next time your pelvis is back down on the ground, you're going to cross your arms over your chest with your right arm on top. So cross the arms over the chest. Francis, make sure you've got one arm completely on top, so your elbows are sort of crossed like, that's it, good. Okay, so now as you press into your right foot, you're also going to roll across your upper back. So you shift your weight towards the back of your left shoulder. That's nice. And your right fingertips can reach out along the floor on the left. That's it. So sort of reach the fingertips away from your body. Obviously let the head roll towards the left. It seems to be happening in most of you anyway. Good. Lovely. And just repeat this a few times. So this is such a nice movement for just softening into our bodies, softening, releasing. Yeah. Oh, that's it. Think about the knee continuing to move forwards over your foot rather than the knee also moving to the left. And it might be more tempting to move the knee to the left. Now the rest of you is moving to the left. That's it. Siobhan, think about your knee a bit. Good. So do this perhaps a couple more times on this side. And then pause in the center, uncross your arms and just do the same thing with both legs. So they could be bent, they could be long. You might do something else completely. And yeah, just have a couple of breaths, just quietly coming back to feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. And then you're going to organize yourself so your left knee is bent, your left foot is standing on the floor, your right leg is long. And come to that very first movement of letting your left knee tilt to the right and to the left. So we're starting off with feeling how the weight can shift side to side across the sole of the foot when the knee tilts. And use this movement to help you then stabilize your foot in the center, settle the foot, stop letting the knee tilt side to side, and now start pressing into the foot and sending your knee forwards over your footprints, letting that left side of the pelvis lift away from the floor, letting your pelvis roll or tilt to the right. Noticing how it feels down through the left side of the body. So when we start to lengthen and move through the sides of the body, we're very much creating space between the ribs, and we can often be really tight in between the ribs. And Francis, this may well be the case for you after your long illness. So we just have to go easy with these things. So in your own time, you can come to giving yourself a hug with your left arm on top now. Yes, so Francis, if you bring your right hand, so it's down towards your left armpit, that's it, yeah. Good. Got a lovely view of you. So good. Very nice. And so the same thing, pressing into the left foot, letting your weight rock towards the back of your right shoulder, reaching your fingertips, your left fingertips out on the floor on the right. Good. Letting your head roll towards the right. Very nice. And just thinking about how this movement can help us to just soften in our bodies as we roll. Just be aware of what's happening with your left knee. That's it, Mel. I think, yes, I think your foot needed to come a bit closer into you, didn't it? Because your knee was wandering a little bit. Good. I mean, it's fine if the knee wanders a little bit over towards the right. It's just having that awareness of what's happening in our foot and in our knee is the most important. So do this once or twice more if you like, and then again, uncross your arms. Settle in the center. And what I'd quite like you to do now, if you want to have both legs long for a moment, you can do. Give your legs a little roll or a little shake, or bounce your knees. And then what I would like you to do is bend both feet, stand both knees feet on the floor. And come a few times to rolling up and down through bridge pose and just see how that feels. And thinking about, as much as possible, we're trying to make this a fluid movement for the spine. So we could start by tipping the tailbone off the floor, then picking up the rest of the pelvis and some of the vertebrae. And then we can start placing the vertebrae back down one by one, resting the pelvis on the ground. And then again, sinking into the feet, tipping the tailbone off the ground, the pelvis comes up, and so on. So just maybe 3 times rolling up and down, keeping it quite easy, keeping it fluid. Not trying to go as high as you possibly can if that brings intention elsewhere. And particularly as you place your lower back and pelvis onto the floor, notice how it feels around that part of yourself. Maybe once more, I think we've done it twice, maybe once more rolling up and down, really planted through the feet, and this feeling of, can we let the spine feel fluid, rolling up and down. And then we're going to come back to this in a moment, but this time, once you've placed your pelvis back onto the floor, what I'd like you to do a few times, I mean, I was doing this repeatedly earlier, is to pick up your pelvis just a little bit and then drop it back onto the floor. So you sink into your feet, you let your pelvis come an inch or so off the ground, and then you drop it back down onto the floor with a bit of a thud. So I'm afraid this is where I might have to unmute you so I can see if I can hear those pelvises thudding onto the floor. Yeah, so it's keeping, just drop it, that's it. Pick the pelvis up, drop it, drop it, drop it. So I was quite interested. I was feeling a bit achy around my pelvis, and this is what I wanted to do several times. And then I came back to a bit of bridge pose. So you could drop your pelvis several times. If it feels nice, then do it a bit more. I was doing loads of it. If you don't like it, don't do it so much. Yes, that's quite nice, Mel, wiggling the pelvis from side to side. The other one you could do, but this wasn't what felt so good for me this morning, was the one where you lift your pelvis just an inch or so from the ground, and then you move it to the right and to the left, trying to keep it level. And from there, you could bring it even lower down, so the back of your pelvis brushes the floor. So as you move your pelvis side to side, it's sort of brushing the floor. But again, see how that feels, because for me, that one didn't feel so helpful today. But sometimes it feels amazing. And then what you're going to do is just revisit bridge pose a couple of times. If you want to do any more dropping of your pelvis or side to side, then do that. But very nice, Francis, good. Francis, I still wonder whether your feet could come in a teeny bit closer. So maybe next time you come down, see how that feels. you've done these couple more bridge poses, then it probably would be nice to fold your knees into your chest, and muting yourself now, and yeah, fold your knees into your chest and do a little bit of rocking from side to side with your knees folded in towards you. Very nice, Sharon, lovely. And then, yes, when you've done a little bit of rocking with your knees folded in towards you, you could also take your legs up towards the ceiling, give them a shake out. The Wednesday morning favourites, you can add your arms into as well. That's very nice. So it's always interesting for you. So Siobhan, I just could see your arms and legs, but very nice. Oh, and your head. Very nice. So, and then from here, when you've had enough of a shake out, you're going to lengthen your legs out on the floor and lie long for a moment. And just see how it feels to be long on your back. And then, let's just see how we go. And then from your back, you're going to, when you've had a sense of yourself. So what's really important is to just let yourself arrive. How do you feel? Feel yourself lying on your back. And then from lying on your back, you're going to roll over onto your belly without getting up into sitting. So how can you roll from your back onto your belly without, with as little, disturbing yourself as little as possible. Good. Back onto the belly. So you could bring your forehead to rest onto the back of your hands if you like. Just come to wherever is comfortable on your belly. And the first thing I always like to do here is wiggle my pelvis a bit. So give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. So what's really important on our belly is just this settling down. And if we're thinking about coming onto our belly because it supports the health of our lungs and helps us to breathe more easily, then it's all about settling. So a bit of a wiggle for the pelvis. Then you can bend both knees and bring your lower legs off the floor. So the soles of your feet are orientated towards the ceiling or thereabouts. And then you're going to let your feet tilt to the right and to the left. So we do this one a lot. I think, again, it's another Wednesday morning favourite. Let the feet tilt to the right and to the left. Good. Now, I was playing around with this one the other day, and I was sort of moving my feet higher up and then lower down as I kept on tilting them. So you can play around with that. You can keep on tilting your feet and moving the feet down, lower towards the floor, and then sort of back up, higher up, and just see what feels good. Because there may be a place that's really helpful for you today, or there may be a place that you don't like at all, in which case avoid. Very nice. So whenever you've had enough, yes, bring your legs back onto the floor and just let them settle down. And let the legs feel heavy. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then from having your forehead on the back of your hands, just slide your hands a little bit further forwards on the floor so they come apart and you've got arm either side of your head. And then a few times as you exhale, you're going to sink into your forearms and lift your head. Just a very sort of easy movement of lifting the head using the muscles in the upper back. So you can come up as you exhale. You could then come back down as you breathe in. Or if you want to stay up for a bit longer, you could come up as you exhale, sinking into your forearms, lifting your head, using the muscles in the upper back, and then receive an inhalation when your head is up, and then come back down as you exhale. So again, it's really about what feels helpful for you today. Good. Good. And do this perhaps a couple more times. And then from here, we're going to fold back into child pose. And I might just mute everyone for a little bit because we're going to be moving around a bit. So let's try that. So yes, have a couple of breaths in child pose. Very nice. Let the elbows rest on the floor. Let the forehead rest on the floor. And again, just giving yourself enough time that you can arrive in child pose. By arrive, I mean you can feel yourself there. You can feel your body. You can feel your breath. And you can also just maybe have a sense of yourself here. How does it feel to be in child? Does this feel pleasant? Yeah. Or does it feel something else? And from child pose, we're going to be coming onto hands and knees. We're not going to do a huge amount here today. I want us to come on into standing. But when you're ready, coming onto hands and knees, taking a little bit of time to settle yourself on hands and knees. And we'll do some cat movements to start with. So you can be rounding your back to the ceiling, dipping your spine down to the floor, and see how these movements feel in your body. So we've already on our backs been mobilizing our spines. And we're continuing with that on hands and knees. The other thing you can add in, and we'll be doing more of this later, is a bit of tail wagging. So this is very much about this length through the sides of the body. You can also do it by doing little fishes, by swinging your lower legs from side to side. And you can revisit any of these things as you wish. So you could come back and do a little bit more cat. And when you're ready, you're going to do a couple of dog poses. So just really the first dog pose is very much about, seeing how it feels. The second one might feel more enjoyable. So you could do a bit more cat or tail wagging, but when you're ready, tucking your toes under, rocking your hips back, and then up into dog pose, and having a few breaths in dog pose, seeing how it feels today. Very nice dogs. Lovely. So there's lots to feel when we're in dog pose. So there's no shortage usually of feedback from our body, usually from the back of the legs, possibly through the soles of the feet, possibly from the shoulders. So yes, coming up into dog, you can come back down, you can come into another dog. When you come back down, you might want to give your hands a bit of a shake out. And then it's quite nice to go on fairly, so rapidly, but fairly, into a second dog pose when you're ready. Do have some breaths in child if you prefer. So when you come into your second dog, again, we're going to be getting lots of feedback from our bodies. Maybe all these tight places opening out a little bit. But also, can we, in this second dog, perhaps have more of a sense of being able to release tension, resting through the arms, allowing the breath to help soften us. In a moment, we're going to be coming into lunge. So you could do this, you could step into lunge from the dog that you're in. If you want a couple of breaths in child pose, you have them. And you can always come into lunge from hands and knees. I was thinking in your lunge today, you could just, in an exploratory way, see a little bit, how does it feel to turn one way in lunge? And how does it feel to turn the other way? So if we're thinking about, we're not trying to sort of stay anywhere, but we're just thinking about this feeling of length through the sides of the body. And yeah, what's it like to turn a little bit in lunge? When you come to swapping to the second side of lunge, you can do that either from hands and knees or by stepping into dog pose. So whatever you prefer. When you're ready, come on into side 2 of lunge. And remember, in lunge, you can have your back toes tucked or flat. A little bit of turning one way turning the other. So I keep swapping my hand on the floor. It doesn't matter how you have your hand. You could be on your knuckle. You could be on the flat of your hand. Possibly when we're turning in lunge, we need to feel a little bit higher up. So it might be that we want to be on our fingertips, or even with a block or a book under the palm. Let's then, either from hands and knees or straight from lunge, have another lengthen out in dog pose. If you step from lunge into dog pose, it might be a bit of a long dog. You might need to walk your feet in a little bit. You might want to walk your feet in a little bit. Yes, very nice. Nice to see the dog poses sort of lengthening out. And from dog pose, use no rush, take your time. From dog pose, you're going to have a few quiet breaths in child pose. Whenever you feel. Yes, Francis, that's good to see you having a little breather. So, yeah. Very nice, beautiful, beautiful dog. Yeah. So often when I'm doing my practice, sometimes when it's like, when I come to doing dog pose, that's when I maybe start to feel that I come alive a little bit. So that lovely feeling of the whole of the body opening. So give yourself another couple of breaths in child pose. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. From child pose, we're going to come onto hands and knees, and for a moment just lengthen each leg out behind you because the knees have been bent for a little while. And we're going to come up into standing by tucking our toes under, walking the hands back in towards the knees, letting the knees come off the floor and coming to this place where we're on the balls of our feet and we can lengthen our toes out a bit. And we'll just do a little bit of rocking here on the balls of our feet. And then let's see, we haven't done these for ages. Let's see how it feels to let the knees come onto the floor and sit back over the heels. I can feel that mine want to wander out to the sides, so I'm trying to stop them. Doing that, we can have a couple of breaths here. And oh, there's plenty of feedback from the body here. We don't really need to try and feel our bodies. And then from here, come forwards, untuck your toes and drum your feet on the floor. And then lengthen each leg out behind you. And this time we will come up into standing. We'll go back through that same movement, but rather than sitting in that rather excruciating place, we will come up into standing. So tuck your toes under, rock your hips back over your heels, pick your knees up off the floor. A little bit of rocking here, but from here, this time, we will send the heels down and the sit bones up. So we come into a forward bend. And then we roll up into and we arrive in standing. I have got everyone unmuted. It might be a little bit noisy for a moment where we adjust devices and that sort of thing. So in standing, just come to this one first of all. So we do this one a lot, swinging the arms, slapping the hands onto the body. So as Jan will know, Thursday evening yoga, usually just about the time we're doing this, it's NHS applause. So I always associate this thing now. So the slapping the hands onto the body, we suddenly hear this clapping and we all rush outside to clap and then come back again. Okay, we're going to let that one go, and we're going to think now, again, come back to these feelings of lengthening through the sides of the body. So from here, we're going to take our arms up, and we're going to start to reach up into one arm and then the other. And as I'm reaching into one arm, I'm shifting my weight into that leg and foot, and letting my pelvis move to that side. So it's not just the reaching through the arms. The whole body is shifting from side to side. You don't have to do that, but for me, it just feels so much nicer. It's reaching and shifting the pelvis, shifting the weight, very nice, making it part of the whole movement. And then from here, you're going to sweep yourself all the way down into a forward bend. Let your head go, let your arms go. See how this feels. If your lower back needs support, of course, bend your knees. Rest your elbows on your thighs. And then we're going to roll back again. Exhale, sink into your heels, roll back up into standing. And we're going to come back to reaching up into one arm and then the other. And this time, I'm not sure you can see because my hands are disappearing. I'll just go a bit lower. This time I'm going to reach up in my right arm and then catch my left hand around my right wrist and draw myself up and over. You don't have to do it on your knees like me. I'm just showing you my hands. It's also some strange new movement. And then reach up through the left arm, catch the right hand around the left wrist, draw yourself up and over. Oh. And then again, we will go all the way down into a forward bend. Heavy and floppy forward. Breathing in, exhaling, rolling up into standing. And just let yourself settle in standing for a moment this time. Maybe bring one hand onto your belly, one hand onto your chest. And just take a moment in standing to see if you can connect with the feeling of your breath within you. So the breath flowing in, the breath flowing out. And then release your arms. And we're going to take the right arm up. It doesn't really matter, we're going to do one side. I'm taking the right arm up. I'm reaching up through that arm again. And I'm shifting my weight again into my right leg and foot. My left heel, my left arm is floppy. My left heel is coming off the ground. And from here, I'm going to let that foot come up completely. And I'm going to catch the top of the foot. So you let the knee drop towards the floor. And see how this feels. And then from here, let the hand come down onto your breastbone. So we're gathering into our center. Just quite a quiet little balance. And see how it feels to have a few breaths here. Good, come down, have a little shake out, and settle your feet down. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So start to reach up through your left arm. Let your right arm be heavy and floppy. Start to shift your weight over onto your left foot, left leg. Let the the heel of the right foot come off the floor. And then the whole of that foot. Catch the top of the foot, we're still reaching up. We let our knee drop and then we let the hand come down onto the breastbone. And just settle. And we quieten through the front of the body. And we let the knee drop. And just gather ourselves in. And standing. Quiet and settled. coming down. You can have a little shake out, and we're going to go back into another forward bend. So you can roll down again, let your head go, let your arms go. Big exhalation or two. If you like to do the weeping willow one, where you're trailing your fingers around the fronts of your feet in a very sort of feet in a very fluid way, you can do that. That can feel quite nice. Again, that helps come back, giving us back in touch with that feeling of length through the sides of the body. And then whenever you're ready, sink into your heels, roll up into standing, come back upright again. And just settle yourself over your footprints. So in standing, we're going to let a breath come in and take our arms wide. And as you exhale, you're going to give yourself a hug. Have your right arm on top, because then you don't have to think about it. And in this position, can we do a little bit of turning from side to side, leaving our pelvis behind? Yeah? So not a huge movement. Just letting the shoulders and the ribs and the head maybe turn to the right and to the left. And then we will pause in the center, and we'll bring our arms on into our lovely eagle arms here. You could do a little bit of circling, drawing a circle with your elbows, if you like. But what we're going to do here is step the feet wider apart. So I've stepped my feet as wide as the narrow edge of my mat. And we're going to go into a forward bend with our feet in this position. So sinking into your heels and the outer edges of your feet, folding forwards. And just see how it feels to do the forward bend with your arms in eagle. You can release your arms whenever you want to. If it's helpful to have the arms in eagle arms, you can keep them there. So give the head and the arms down to the floor. Keep sinking into your heels. So if you haven't released your arms, maybe release them now. Good. And then as you exhale, sink down. Yes, so release your arms if you haven't. Release them. As you exhale, you're going to sink into your heels. You're going to roll back up. And before we come on to the other side, let's just wide, come into this one. So again, we're doing this lengthening through the side of the body. And in this one, I like to let my pelvis move. You don't have to. If that doesn't feel good, don't do it. But my pelvis is shifting in the opposite direction to where my top arm is reaching. Let's find a bit more length through the side of the body. So we could be there all day going from side to side, but we'll come back to feet being hip width apart again. So settle down with your feet hip width apart. Feel your footprints on the floor. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you and drop your shoulders. Let a breath come in and take your arms wide. And then as you exhale, give yourself a hug with your left arm on top. Drop the shoulders down. It's quite nice here to close the eyes for a moment and see if you can feel the movement of the rib cage with your breathing under your hands. So if your hands are on your ribs, you can feel your ribs. See if you can feel any movement as you breathe. And of course, you can do the little turning, the little twist, turning your ribs and your shoulders and your head from side to side. You can always open your eyes for this. Notch your pelvis if possible. And of course, you can go on into eagle arms. Which you know, so I don't have to explain it. Thank goodness for that on Zoom. A little bit of circling of your elbows if you like. And then stepping the feet wide apart, as wide as the narrow edge of the mat. Letting a breath come in. As you exhale, sink into your heels. Fold forwards, bend your knees as much as you like. Use the weight of the arms to help lengthen out your spine. Let your head go. So whenever you like, you can release your arms to the floor. let them be floppy. And also, whenever you like, you can sink into your heels and roll back up into your standing. And again, we'll do a few more of these side lengthening movements. And just again, trying to find something that feels enjoyable, that feels lovely. Let's get into all these words. Delicious through the sides of the body. Reaching up, the other arms floppy. Now, in a moment, we're going to take the feet a little bit wider apart, and I think we'll do this in a couple of stages. So the first thing I'd like you to do is take your feet wider and then see how it feels to come down, and just do a little bit of this side to side shifting. You've got these options. You can take your hands with you, or you can put your hands in the centre. So just a little bit of easing into having the feet wider. Yeah. So I was doing that and one knee wasn't that happy. So I was having a little, so be attentive to your knees in this. So I was bending one knee and bending the other to help shift from side to side. One knee was a bit grumbly, in which case, just be careful. And just noticing, so as you bend one knee, it's actually the inside of the straight leg that's going to be really stretching more. So a bit of side to side. And then when you've done that from side to side several times, then do a little bit of just coming into a forward bend in the centre, where you're letting your head go. You're feeling your weight sinking into your heels, and your spine is tumbling forward. So just how does it feel to be in a wide forward bend? And your knees could be bent or straight, but they're doing the same thing. Really let the head go. There's all these different arm positions you could do. You could hold your elbows. You could rest your hands on your ankles. Jan has a very nice version with the back of her hands on her ankles. You can rest the backs of your hands on the floor with your fingers pointing away behind you. And then whenever you're ready to come up, sink into your heels. Roll back up into standing. Come and have a little shake out. And I'm going to, I'm going to suggest a few things that you could do in your wide forward bend. Okay, so the first one, some of you were slightly doing this anyway. So if when you were bending, you're not bending one knee now, but if in bending one knee, you were walking your hand over one way, you were starting to side bend. So you could do this, but what I'd like you to try is without bending the knee. How is it to walk from side to side? So that's one thing. I'm just going to show you in the other direction now. So you might want some sort of support for your hands. So other things very familiar for lots of you is coming into the twist here. The other one that is quite nice, and Sarah, I know this one always is quite nice for you, is doing these sort of cat movements with your legs long and wide. Might even be, there's these ones where you sort of lengthen out a bit more. Hands on some sort of support. If you're doing that one, your weight is still through your heels. So I've given you rather a lot of options. I hope that is helpful rather than off-putting. So yeah, there's side bending, there's a bit of a twist, there's some cat movements or lengthening out in wide forward bend. You're not muted, so do ask me if you're not sure about what you're doing. Now, I would like you, that's it, Siobhan, try and leave your pelvis behind. So whatever you're doing with your legs wide, both legs are doing the same thing. If you start to feel that one knee is bending and the other one is not, then something is going on beneath your waist. That rather than through the sides of your body or through your rib cage. So yeah, really try and leave your pelvis behind. Yeah, that's nice, Francis. So that way you're lengthening out onto something It can feel really nice in the upper back. Yeah, that's it, Sarah. That's nice for you. It might even be nice if you had something to put your hands up on, Sarah. What's that sort of, I was just thinking that low sort of console thing. Is it, I'm not sure it's near enough. It's not quite near enough.
It's the fireplace.
Oh, it's the fireplace.
Yeah.
Good. That's nice. Yeah, Jan, you could actually let your pelvis come forwards a tiny bit. So that, that's nice. Yeah, so you're doing such a good job of keeping your weight back in your heels. You could actually bring it slightly forwards. Siobhan, take your weight back, your pelvis back more. That's it. So that's it. So really keep your weight in your heels. Yes, so if you're lengthening to a surface, you'll have to move nearer. Good. So really keep your weight in your heels. Good, and let yourself lengthen out and flatten in your upper back. Very nice. Good. Yes, that's nice, Marie. Lovely. And do, yes, whenever you've had enough, good, do come up into standing. That's very thrilled. From watching you in this, I suddenly remembered another sequence. So we'll have that another week. And when you do come up out of that one, you can come out and up and have a little bit of a shake out. And perhaps just settle in standing for a moment, see how your body feels. So we're going to do one more balance in standing. This is one that I don't often do on its own, but I thought we would do it. It's quite a good, it sort of counters the wide leg, and we've also done the arms. We're going to be doing our lovely eagle legs balance. So we're going to be from here, starting with our feet hip width apart. Sometimes I feel it's quite helpful in this one to have quite a generous hip width apart. Obviously, they don't both stay on the ground. So we bend the knees. It's helpful when we're bending the knees to look down at the floor, at least initially. And then you're going to shift your weight onto one foot and cross the other leg over. Now you can, if you want to, do that sort of, I always think of Princess Diana, that tucking your foot around your ankle, but I don't tend to do that these days. I just let the foot hang. And at this point, I bring the gaze forwards. So now I'm standing on my right foot. So when I cross my arms in eagle, my right arm is the top one. So it's the opposite cross of arms. Good. And then you're trying to really feel here that your shoulders are over your hips. There are variations of this where we're leaning forwards, but that's not what we're doing today. Oh, and it's quite strong work in the muscles around the standing leg hip joint. So we perhaps don't stay here too long. Oh, we come out and have a bit of a shake out. So it's very interesting, as soon as we bend our standing knee, it becomes much more muscular rather than being supported through our bones. So let's try the other side. So come back to this sort of fairly wide Tadasana, bending your knees, looking down at the floor, trying at this point to keep your shoulders over your hips rather than leaning forwards, looking down at the floor, and then crossing, I'm standing on my left foot now, crossing the other leg over. And at this point then I'm trying to let my tailbone drop, my gaze is coming forwards, I'm bringing my left arm on top. Dropping the shoulders. See what it's like to have a few breaths in this balance where we're very much gathered into our center. And then coming down, having a good shake out. And I think it might be nice to do something where we're really lengthening out through our legs after that one. So we're going to come to the back of the mat. We're going to go down through forward bend, dog pose, and then eventually folding our knees once more in child. And let's, before we go forwards into our forward bend, let's one last time bring our arms up and reach up through the sides of the body. So this first one we did in standing, reaching up through one arm and then the other. And from reaching up at the backs of our mats, we're then going to, as we exhale, swoop down into our forward bend. Have a couple of breaths here. And then walking the hands on into dog pose. If in your dog pose, you thought it might be quite nice to do your one-legged dogs, particularly the one where you're reaching up into one heel, letting your pelvis tilt, those might be quite a nice way of, again, lengthening through the sides of the body. Lengthening through your legs before you fold down into child pose. And having a few quiet breaths. Good. So settling and quietening in child. And again, this sense of, I suppose, of how do you feel in child pose, and how we feel operates on a number of different levels. There's how the body feels, there's this perhaps more nebulous sense of how do we feel inside of ourselves. Sometimes after we've moved a bit in yoga, we have this feeling of just greater inner spaciousness. And maybe even contentment. If you're happy in child, have another couple of cycles of breath there. If you're not, we're going to be coming onto hands and knees. So you could be coming onto hands and knees and lengthening each leg out behind you. So as promised, we're going to be coming back onto hands and knees, and we're going to be doing some more wagging movements. So again, we're coming back to this feeling of length through the sides of the body. So we do a bit of wagging our tail. We can do a bit of little fishes. The same movement that we do by swinging our legs from side to side. And then what I'd like you to do is end up in a slightly longer hands and knees position, so that we can, and Francis, I did think you would want to do some face-up dog, hopefully. So we're going to use our tail wagging movement to take us back into child and forwards into face-up dog. So this side to side swinging of the pelvis. That can bring us forwards and back. And we can feel very, hopefully, in control of the movement into face-up dog, so that it feels comfortable and enjoyable. We can spend as much time as we like going back into child pose. And so it's very much this feeling that the side to side movement of the pelvis is what brings us forwards and brings us back. If you feel, so you've got a couple of choices. When you feel you've done enough face-up dog, you could fold back in child pose for a couple more breaths. Or if you fancied lengthening out in dog pose from your face-up dog. So from this face-up dog, you can always move into the other face-up dog where we tuck the toes under, let the knees come off the floor. And then from here, if you wanted to lengthen out in dog, you could send your hips up and back. And it's quite a long dog, so you might want to walk with your feet in a little bit. Bend your knees as much as you like, and then from there, if you're not already in child pose, fold down and have a couple of breaths in child. Now from child pose, it might be quite good to come and lengthen each leg out behind you, because we're going to be bending the front knee again. And I think we're going to be bending one knee. So I'm just going to briefly turn around and show you this, because we're going to come into this position. So it's this, I suppose, pigeon variation where you start off with your heel under your buttock, and then we do this side to side. Zip you of my bum. So we're going to be sliding. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter which knee forwards. So you're going to be sliding one knee forwards. Your heel is, your starting point is with your heel under the same buttock. I mean, it's buttock. Coming down onto your elbows. And this movement where we let our pelvis rock from side to side across that heel. So it's this sort of rather lizardy type movement. Again, it's the pelvis moving at the center of ourselves. And from here, we're going to move into a more traditional pigeon pose. And I'm just going to swap legs. You don't need to swap legs, because otherwise I realise I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be facing you for what we're going to do. So from here, when your pelvis rocks to the outside of your heel, then let yourself stay there, and you can slide your foot forwards a little bit. So now your heel is coming in front of the back leg thigh. And it might also be that you need to slide your knee back a little bit. And then if you're coming into pigeon, again, you might be in this slightly lopsided pigeon, which is fine if that works better for you, particularly for the front knee, or letting your pelvis roll, so the pelvis becomes level, but possibly your front leg thigh is not on the floor. We're going to have a few breaths in pigeon. So it's really doing whatever you want to do in pigeon that helps you settle. So it's, it could be coming up onto your hands, could be a bit of rocking with your back toes tucked under. And if you're happy in pigeon, stay in for a bit longer. I know not everyone is. What we're going to be doing from here, when we come out, I'll show you, and then I'll sort out the screen. We're going to be rolling backwards. So we end up with the pigeon leg. We come into sitting with our pigeon knee still bent, the front knee, and the other leg long. So just so we make sure we do both sides, so the same leg that was bent in pigeon is going to be bent in this.
Are we doing the other side of pigeon now then?
What's that now?
Are we doing the other side of pigeon?
No, we're not doing the other side of pigeon yet. We're coming into this sitting position. So if you've rolled out of pigeon, and if you rolled out of pigeon and did something else, come into this sitting position. And so like with any sitting thing, what we're trying to do is settle, yeah? So it's up to you, this foot, it's where it's most comfortable in a way. So for some of you, this foot might be a bit closer to your leg. And just see if you can do a little bit of rolling or rocking in this position to help you settle onto the floor. Now, it's quite likely that one of your legs is going to be more comfortable than the other. Might be the bent leg, it might be the long leg. And this is a movement, every time I do this movement, I think, gosh, I should just practice this more, because I find it really rather tough. I'm going to move you a bit nearer to you. So what we're going to be doing is, again, it's a side lengthening movement, this one. So we turn to face the bent knee. So we're lining up our shoulder with our long leg. this delightful one. And then we start to fold over. So you might really love this one. Start to fold over. The side of our body folds over this long leg. Oh, maybe the arm comes up. So it's a really strong opening through this side of the body. That's where I just think, oh my goodness, I need to do this one much more often. You don't have to take your top arm up. You could be here. Just that. Always keep turning towards the bent leg. You might need to, what I tend to do is need to come out and just recover for a moment, and then, and then we can try it again. So you can come out, you can do a little bit of rocking, you can let your body settle. And then just before we come out of it, see again, what's it like to turn towards the bent leg? So we turn towards the bent leg. Our shoulder is lined up with our long leg. And then we're trying to fold. This arm comes down on the inside of the leg. And to fold down the side of our body. Oh. Yes. And if you're happy, if you want to stay there a bit longer, then please do. Otherwise, from here, we will lengthen both legs out. And just have the lengthens. I know some of you are really keen on, quite a few of you Wednesday morning yogis are rather keen on this one, aren't you? So the folding forwards with your legs long and wide. And so obviously we will end up in this position from having done the other side. So we don't need to, we'll probably maybe stay there a little bit longer. So just see how it feels now. And then finally on this side, lean back on your hands and bring your feet into cobbler pose and see how this feels. And we'll also stay a little bit longer in this one when we get to the side. Just see how cobbler pose feels. And then perhaps lengthen both legs out and give them a little bit of a roll. So, whichever knee was bent, just remember which one it was, because we're going to come all the way back in this sequence. So we're bringing the other knee forwards, yeah? So we're starting off in this sort of lizardy movement where we're bending the other knee. Our heel is under our buttock. We're down on our elbows. We're rocking our pelvis side to side. Then you can have your back toes tucked under. You can have your back toes flat. Seeing how this feels. So again, it's this movement where the pelvis is going from side to side. Making sure the front knee is happy. And from here, so I'm sort of leaving this up to you to spend however long you want in different elements of it. From here, we would be rocking the pelvis to the outside of the heel, so we can move on into pigeon. So at that point, you then slide your foot a little bit more over to the other side, so your heel's in front of your back leg. Might need to slide your knee back, possibly not from here. And then either we're in a bit of a slightly lopsided pigeon, where all of our weight's through the front leg thigh, or we can let the pelvis roll round, and maybe the front leg thigh comes off the floor a little bit. And again, it's up to you what you want to do in pigeon, how long you want to be here. Keep breathing, keep settling the pelvis down on the ground. Be on your hands, you can be on your elbows. You can fold forwards. So if you're joining pigeon, heaven forbid, you can stay here. And then, but just like we did on the other side, we're going to be rolling back. This front leg stays bent. Back leg stays long. We're coming into this sitting position where we've got one knee bent. And obviously we can move this leg around to make it as comfortable as possible. Move this leg around to make it as comfortable as possible. We can do a little bit of rocking. settling. So this one always reminds me, I was thinking when I was doing it, when I was doing my yoga teacher training with Pete all those years ago, and someone asked him about this pose, and he said this thing really, that actually this was the most important bit, this rocking and settling on the ground. So if you're thinking that the lengthening is really strong, and like me, you can only bear it for a few breaths, you can think about what Pete said and how actually this is the most important bit. So from here, you're going to be turning your body so you face the knee that's going out to the side. We're lining up this shoulder with the long leg. And then we're seeing, how does it feel to fold the side of the body down over the long leg. Let's see, can we breathe? Is it possible to be here? The foot, we like to come out. We'll try a couple of times. Come out, come back to the rocking. You can be mindful of what Pete said, that this is the most important thing about this, the settling of the legs onto the floor. And then once more, we turn to face the bent leg. Our shoulder is lined up with our long leg. So as we fold, this side of the body is really gathering up. This top side of the ribs really has to lengthen and open. So if we come all the way over, we're still facing forwards. Oh, but yes, coming back out. Good. Very nice. And then we can do our long, wide legs again. So I know not everyone loves this. I know some of you do. And yeah, so wherever you are, it could be that you're leaning back on your hands. It could be that if you find this one more more of a struggle, that you've got a cushion under your buttocks. If you're happy with this one, your hands could come onto the floor in front of you. So if you're going forwards, it's because your pelvis is able to move forwards. If you feel your pelvis, if the pelvis is really rolling back more than forwards, then it's best not to go too far forwards. Strain on the lower back. We'll have a few breaths. So I'm going to give you a couple of options now, I think, because I know some of you do like this one and like to stay in it. So you've got this option, or if this is not so good for you for a forward bend, you can bring your feet into a long cobbler pose. If that one is better for you, fold forwards. Or as a third option, if neither of those are good, you can be having your feet standing on the floor and folding forwards in this position. And in this position, I've sort of got my knees and my armpits, which feels surprisingly nice. So just maybe choosing one of those forward bends to have a few breaths in. And you can always change out of one of them. I'd like us to be able to have 3 buzzing breaths. And it might be that you fold forwards as you buzz and you let yourself come back up in between each buzz, if that makes it a little bit easier. So it might be quite nice to come upright to let the breath come in and then fold forwards with your buzz. So let a breath come in. Then again, if you like, walking the hands back in towards you, let a breath come in. one last time. Coming up, if you like, to receive the inhalation, and then folding forwards with the out breath. And then walking your hands back in towards you, and just, yes, ease out of your sitting position, whatever it is. And we're going to sit and do a bit of breathing. And I'm just, yes, deciding. I think we're going to do sort of breathing with a mudra, with this hakini mudra. A couple of options, but I think we'll do that one. So if you can come and find a comfortable sitting position, it could be with your back against the wall, it could be sitting on a cushion, it could be with your knees bent or your legs long. And I'll talk you through what we're going to do, and then I will mute up. So come and make yourself comfortable. Francis, what about with your legs long and a little bit? Do you think a little bit apart? Not, yeah. I usually have my feet like sort of back wide apart, something like that. We just need, we need to be able to sit in a way that we can focus on our breathing without having to be too focused on, on our sitting. Yes, not too much feedback coming from the body, maybe shouting. So the little sequence we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to bring our hands onto our low ribs. So then we're going to come to here for a few breaths. Then we're going to come to hakini mudra, this one, where we touch all the pads of the fingers. And we're going to move our hands with our breathing. So we're going to breathe in and widen. So it's a bit like we're mimicking the action of the rib cage. We're going to exhale and bring the hands together. So we'll do that. And then we're going to make it a little bit more meditative. So we're going to be touching a couple of the two smallest fingers, then just the middle fingers, then these, and then all of them. Okay, so I'll talk you into all of that. If at any point you need to, we'll probably, before we do the more meditative bit, we'll probably have a little bit of a rock or a circle, and then we'll carry on. Okay, so I'm going to mute you now. Make sure you're warm enough. You can always put a blanket around you. So our starting point is to bring our hands onto our low ribs. So I've got my thumbs going around towards the back, and just be a little bit mindful that maybe your elbows are coming out to the side or even slightly forwards rather than going back. So if your elbows go back, it sort of pushes your front ribs forwards, and yes, maybe you're not as quiet then as you could be. So hands on the front ribs and closing your eyes. And just seeing, how does it feel to focus on the movement of these low ribs as you breathe in and out? So it means that we maybe need to slow down, to allow the breath time to feel that it travels deep within us and expands those ribs as we breathe in. And as we exhale, the out breath leaves us long and slow. So we can feel those ribs narrow a little bit and hug back around us. So this feeling of widening and narrowing around our middle, but we need to give each in-breath and out-breath plenty of time and space, so that the inhalation can travel deep within us And the out breath can leave us slowly, long, emptying us all the way down to the bottom of the lungs. Have another breath or two with your hands on your low ribs. And then you're going to let your hands come to rest on your thighs for a moment and let your arms relax. Let the shoulders drop. Let the center of the palms soften. And then we're going to bring the hands to hakini mudra. We're touching all of the pads of the fingers. See if you've got this slightly sort of arched. You want to feel, you're making sort of an arched shape with your fingers. And then as you exhale, you're going to bring the palms to touch. And as you breathe in, you're going to bring the palms away from each other. So you're coordinating the movement of your hands with your breathing. Your eyes can be open or closed. Hands widening and arching as you breathe in. Palms coming closer together, touching as you exhale. Do this for another 2 or 3 cycles of breath. And then letting your hands come to rest on your thighs. And I think now just take a moment to notice how your body feels. If you want to change your sitting position or just rock a little bit or fold forwards for a moment, let your head hang. Can be quite good practice to change the cross of the legs if you're sitting cross-legged, so the other leg comes in front. It can feel quite peculiar. And then we'll come back to hakini mudra, but in this sort of quieter way. So we're starting with touching the little fingers and the ring fingers and seeing how that feels for a few breaths. And again, your eyes can be open or closed. So we're feeling that contact of the pads of the little fingers and the ring fingers. Also in our awareness is the sense of the flow of our breath. And also the weight of the pelvis on the ground. From here, change, so you're touching just your middle fingers. Got that one point of focus. See how it feels to settle with that one point of focus. Letting your shoulders drop, letting your arms be as relaxed as possible. Feeling the contact between the pads of the middle fingers. And then swapping so we touch the pads of the index fingers and the thumbs. And see how that feels. And then finally bringing all of the pads of the fingers, the touch and the thumbs. So the full hakini mudra. And we'll have a few cycles of breath here. See if at this point you can really let the shoulders soften. Then let your hands go, let them come to rest on your thighs, maybe palms up for a moment. And then turn your palms down on your thighs. Close your eyes, let your shoulders drop. Feel the weight of your legs and your pelvis on the floor. Feel the movement of your breath somewhere in your body. Have a sense of your spine at the center of yourself, growing upwards from your heavy pelvis. And your head balancing on the top. And then from here, we're going to fold forwards, bring the hands to touch the ground. If you want to touch your forehead to the ground, you can do. You might need to get up, let your bottom come up. And then we're going to be lying down onto our backs. And thought it might be nice to do a couple of things to settle, so we can do a bit of rocking our knees. And we could do a bit of this one, where we're crossing our elbows over our chest. Let your hands and fingers slide out to the sides. If you want to do a bit of this one, and then we'll settle down. Just a little bit of relaxation. So yes, I was tilting my knees first of all, a little bit of tilting the knees from side to side. Yes, so Francis, again, when you're crossing your elbows like that, bring the bottom hand, that's it, so your hands towards your armpit, there you go. So, good. And I think what we all need to do really is just do what Mel's dog Otter is doing, which is lie there super relaxed. Very good yoga dog. So yes, a little bit of tilting your knees on their own, maybe rolling your head, and then a bit of rolling from side to side with your arms crossed over your chest. And then settling down with your blanket, with, yes, whatever, yeah. So making sure you're warm. And I'm going to read you a short poem, which Jan, you will have heard. I think we had it last Thursday evening, but yeah, I really love this one. It's always, you know, with poetry, with any, you know, probably with anything, it's good to hear it more than once. And when you're settled, I'll read it. So we've had some poems from this book in recent weeks, the Ryokan, the 18th century Japanese Zen poet. The rain has stopped. The clouds have drifted away, and the weather is clear again. If your heart is pure, then all things in your world are pure. Abandon this fleeting world. Abandon yourself. Then the moon and flowers will guide you along the way. So we'll lie quietly for another few moments. I will ring the singing bowl 3 times, so you don't need to do anything until you've heard the silence at the end of the 3rd ring. So thank you, everyone. Take your time.